Good afternoon and welcome to this meeting of Hertfordshire County Council's Employment Committee. First, an announcement. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, the Council will be holding this meeting electronically in accordance with the relevant regulations. Members of the public may also be attending this meeting in an electronic capacity. Members of the Council are asked to keep their microphones and cameras switched off until called to speak, and to switch their microphones and cameras off once they've finished speaking. To indicate a wish to speak, members should request to do so using the public chat function. I will ask members to vote for, against or abstain for each item at the end of the debate on that item, and ask that members indicate their vote using the public chat function. I will declare the result after each vote. Officers are in attendance but will keep their cameras and microphones switched off unless called to speak. So I'm joined this afternoon by Stephen Giles Medhurst, the leader of the Liberal Democrat group, Judy Billing, the leader of the Labour Party group, Ralph Sangster, the executive member for Resources and Performance, who is substituting for Councillor Teresa Heritage. Ralph Sangster is also chair of the Hertfordshire Pension Committee. And then we're also joined by Tim Hutchings, the executive member for Public Health and Prevention, who is substituting for Councillor Richard Roberts. So we have no apologies. We have our full quorum and our planned attendance. Members' interest, a reminder, colleagues, to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests or declarable interests. All members who have a disclosable pecuniary interest arising from an allowance from the County Council, another local authority in Hertfordshire, or a body to whom they've been appointed by the County Council have received a dispensation to allow them to participate in debate and vote in this meeting. So the first item is we need to consider the minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of June. Colleagues, can I take those as being a correct record of that meeting, and that I will sign it when I have the opportunity to be back in County Hall? Are we agreed?
Yes.
Thanks, Judy. And thanks, Ralph, for agreeing it online. Yes. Stephen, you were at the meeting as well. Yes, thanks. Yes. That's fine. Thank you. So let's move on to the first substantive item, and that is item number 1, pension schemes, annual update report on local government pension scheme and firefighter pension scheme employer discretions usage. And can I invite our Assistant Director for Human Resources, Sally Hopper, to introduce that, please, Sally?
Thank you. So this is an annual update to give the information on our discretions that we've exercised in the last year. And I'm able to report that under 5.3 of the report, we have discretion number 2, which is around granting colleagues the right to do flexible retirement. And we've granted one such request this year, so that's to note. And then the second discretion is under 5.4, which is inward pension transfer. And in the last year, we've had 25 such requests, and please may I report that we've rejected 21 of those, and 4 were accepted for colleagues to transfer their pension into our scheme. And then the final discretion I'd like to report this afternoon is for the fire pension scheme. I wish to confirm that we have exercised no discretions in the past year. Thank you.
Sally, thank you for that. I think it's fair to reflect minimal use of the discretions that are available to the Council. Colleagues, any comments from you? If not, then can I move on to the agreement of the proposal if there are no other comments? Sorry, so no comments from Judy. And so there is support for that. So I'm putting the proposal, therefore, that Employment Committee notes the content of the report and I'll just pause to see people's responses on chat. That's agreed by everyone. So thank you, colleagues, for your support for that item. In which case, therefore, let's then move on to agenda item number 2, request for approval of temporary re-engagement of an Assistant Chief Fire Officer. Again, can I turn to you, Sally, to introduce this?
So please may I, thank you, please may I introduce it and say that I also do have Jill Goodchild present at Employment Committee today for any technical details that members may have. But the essence of this paper is the situation we find ourselves in response to COVID-19. One of our senior fire officers, Gus Cuthbert, retired on the 31st of July. And we did seek to find a replacement for him, but we were unsuccessful, regrettably, in doing so. So we find ourselves being unable to replace him. And ordinarily, we would not seek to re-engage a retired fire officer because it's not something that we would do. But because of the circumstances we find ourselves in 3.1 of the report, members will note that we are asking for a temporary re-engagement of Gus Cuthbert for 6 months, just to help us through the situation we find ourselves in at the moment. In terms of the correctness of such a recommendation that I'm putting to Employment Committee today, I would draw your attention to Appendix 1, and you'll see 4.1 and 4.2 set out the context where you'll see that the Minister, Glenn, he made a ministerial statement to make this amendment to normal practice in response to COVID-19. And the paper today is simply paying attention to that amendment, which has been most helpful to us, and asking that members, please may we have your permission to extend for 6 months for this officer to come and work back in the service. And please may I, in making the request, give members assurance that there would be no intention to extend it beyond 6 months. It really is a 6-month solution we're looking at, and we would be very happy to take any questions on this rather unusual request.
Sally, thank you for that. Yes, I think it's appropriate to highlight that Gus Cuthbert is the fire service lead on the County Strategic Coordination Group. And represents the Fire and Rescue Service on a number of other bodies, and so is an important role as part of the senior management of the fire service. And as Sally's pointed out, the Economic Secretary, John Glenn, has specifically made a statement in respect of such situations, and hence the proposal here that when Gus was due to retire on the 17th of August, that this be his employment be extended for a further 6 months. So I've got a number of colleagues wishing to ask questions. So I will go to you first, Ralph, and then Stephen, and then Judy. Ralph. Thank you.
Yes, I think this is a very sensible proposal. Clearly, if someone has been involved with the fire services as long as this and has an intimate knowledge of the COVID situation, it would be prudent to continue their service whilst we still require that important input. I have a question regarding the personal protection age, which is under 4.7 of the agreement. I'm just intrigued as to what that is, because I'm not sure I understand it entirely. And clearly there is it's an important factor, because the Inland Revenue have agreed that this particular situation would fall foul of it. But I'm interested to know what it means.
Jill, is that one for you? Or Sally?
Yes, afternoon, Jill Goodchild here. I'll try my best to explain that, but I'm by no means a pension expert, and especially not in the firefighter's pension. It's around the fact that when they reach 30 years service, they receive a lump sum and a kind of maximum commutation amount, so maximum lump sum. That starts to change after 30 years service. The commutation can lessen, and we've found ourselves in the past as well, been in situations where people haven't left. There can be a payment due to the Inland Revenue.
Right. So, I mean, this is the same sort of situation that many people, many senior people working in the NHS have found themselves in. Ralph, is that okay?
Yeah, I think that explains it. It was just a new concept that was coming across, and clearly we wouldn't want someone who was staying on as a means by which to give us a continuity to suffer any impact on their pension position. So I'm pleased to see that the Inland Revenue have noted that, and I'm not going to impose or consider any clawback in that situation.
Fine, thanks, Ralph. Stephen.
Mine was virtually an identical question in relation to 4.7. It says about the rules remaining in place to the 1st of November 2020. The 6 months takes us beyond the 1st of November 2020, obviously. So will this need to be reviewed if the rules aren't extended, and what the position is with the commutation and the lump sum at the end of the 6 months? Again, I'm a little bit unclear. I mean, I'm aware that you can't normally be re-employed, which obviously this allows you to be re-employed and equally take your lump sum. And normally there's a set statutory period laid down either by the employee or by Inland Revenue. So some clarification on that. I'm assuming this has all been checked, and obviously ACSO Cuthbert is more than content and happy with this arrangement. So I would assume that due diligence has been done. It's just it's not very clear from if that has been the case. I'm assuming it has, in terms of paragraph 4.7. It refers to no risk to the council in paragraph 4.7, as opposed to no risk to ACFO Cuthbert.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a distinction here, Stephen, between the 6 months that Gus will be with us, and then the period for which the Economic Secretary put these arrangements and this easing of the rules in place, and that it's the rules that the easing of the rules that come to an end on the 1st of November. Jill, can you, Jill, or indeed Jenny, as you're with us, can you confirm our understanding of that? And that there's no loss to Gus in this situation?
David, it's Jill Goodchild back again. There is a slight loss to Gus.
Okay.
A very slight loss, but he's factored that in, the fact that he'll be working for another 6 month period, so he's prepared to take that loss personally. And I think, looking at the statement from government, as I think it was from a period, they've extended the period from November, if that made sense. So anybody retiring in that period, as long as nobody retires post November.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my understanding of it. Okay, Judy.
Could I just come back and seek clarification on that, David?
Yeah, in what respect, Stephen?
Well, mention was made of a slight loss, and quite frankly, you know, obviously the officer is a senior officer who is effectively obviously wanting to assist the council in this current climate. I would not want to see any officer in these circumstances out of pocket whatsoever. And I wonder if we could find, and I'm not asking for the amount involved, but I wonder if we can find, the chief officers can find a way around it to ensure that ACFO Cuthbert does not suffer any loss whatsoever in relation to his assistance to the authority.
Okay, I'm going to turn to officers to see if they are able to comment further. Sally?
So I would be unable to give that assurance to the member this afternoon. What assurance I can give is that the arrangement has been very carefully scrutinised by Jenny Kunkun from an employment law perspective, and also it has been done by mutual agreement with Gus Cuthbert. So he's gone into it cited on the consequences, both positive and negative for him. And so I wouldn't want to mislead members this afternoon by giving false assurances.
Stephen, are you content to accept that explanation?
I and perhaps Sally could have just have a quiet private word with me afterwards to explain the circumstances, because it may only of it rather than in the public forum. Yeah, I'll be more than content to have that call at some stage. Thank you.
Okay, Judy.
Yes, my question related to 4.6, which was about what we think might happen towards the end of this 6-month period in terms of either going through an external recruitment process or growing our own, which is suggested in that paragraph. And I just wondered if there was any indication, gut feelings, whatever, about where we might be going with that, or where we think we are, because 6 months, as I know from the last 6 months, goes terribly quickly, even in a difficult time.
Jill, are you able to comment on where you are in terms of thinking about filling this role longer term?
I am. Judy, we're just conducting a final process for our area commander level, which is the level below Gus. Final interviews going ahead on the 6th of August. Hopefully out of that process we may be able to develop our own going forward. However, I think we will possibly at some stage go out externally during that 6 months again to re-recruit to that assistant chief officer post.
Thanks, Jill.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Judy. Okay, are there any other questions? If not, I'm going to turn to the proposal, therefore, that Employment Committee is asked to approve the temporary re-engagement of ACFO Gus Cuthbert from 17th August 2020 for a period of not more than 6 months, including any notice period. So can I ask you to vote for, against, or abstain, please? Or indeed agree? Judy, have you voted?
Just doing it.
Great, thank you. So there's full agreement from all 5 members for that proposal. So we don't have any other Part 1 business. We do have some Part 2 or closed business. So at this stage, as there is no further Part 1 business, we will be concluding the webcast and then continue with Part 2 without the webcast actually switched on. So Elaine will confirm when